Good evening.
All these early birds on the call. That's great. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. We're muting everyone at the onset, just so there's no, feedback.
Get out. Mommy's on the call. Mommy's on the phone. Bye.
Why I don't hear them?
She's on the phone. Bye.
Not answer.
Goodbye. Good.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, Ms. Green.
Good evening.
Well, it is 6 o'clock. I guess we can give maybe 1 or 2 more minutes for some folks to arrive, and then we will get started.
Okay.
Okay, well, it is 6:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Can everyone see my screen? Just nod your head if you can. Okay, great, great. So my name is Angela Fountain. I have the pleasure of serving as the Communications Director for the Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority. So excited to have you all join the call tonight. We have some great information that we're going to share. With this wonderful project, we are making progress. We are moving right along. We're here to provide you all with some updates. And we do ask that you take full advantage of this information. If you have questions, for those of you that are joining us virtually, we ask that you put those questions in the chat. So there is a chat function. Please put your questions in the chat and we will entertain those questions at the end. For those that are joining in person with our in-person alternative, which is at the Creighton Recreation Center, as well as the Armstrong Renaissance Community Center, we ask that if you have questions, that you get those questions to the representatives that are there to assist you, and we will also answer those questions. So for those virtually and by phone, put those in the chat for us. The other folks, just make your questions available to our representatives that are there. All right, so we are gonna go ahead and get started. We all know why we're here. We're here to learn about the status, some updates about the redevelopment of Creighton Court. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over right now. We have a quick presentation for you, but a power pack presentation. I'm going to turn it over to the interim CEO for Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority, Miss Stacy Daniels-Faison.
Well, thank you, Angela, for that wonderful introduction. Once again, my name is Stacy Daniels-Faison. I'm the interim CEO for the Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority. Welcome. I hope everyone had a great evening, a great day today. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I'd just like to say welcome to our first quarterly community meeting. RHA, as Angela has indicated, is very, very excited about this project and the movement that we've made in this project. And we hope that you, as our residents, our partners, are just as excited as well. And as Angela indicated, the purpose of the meeting is to provide you all additional information. At this time, for all the Richmond Redevelopment and Housing staff, I would like for you all to introduce yourselves.
Hi, this is Eliza Stokes, and I'm the program manager with Resident Service.
Good evening. This is Kenyatta Green. I'm the director of the Housing Choice Voucher Program and Tenant Selection Office.
Good evening. This is Brett Brooks, the program manager for Resident Services.
Hi, this is Wanda Daniel, program manager, Sharon Ince, relocation specialist, and Mr. Ralph W. Stuckey, director of resident services. We're in Creighton Court.
All right.
Good evening,
Cami Smith, resident.
Go ahead, Cami.
Cami Smith, resident service coordinator.
Desi Winter, director of real estate.
Are there any other RHA folks on the phone? Okay. But at this time, I would like to recognize a group that has been very instrumental in assisting us in our effort, and that is the Creighton Tenant Council. And we thank the leadership of Ms. O's, who has helped us to provide insightfulness as we went through this process, and her guidance, as well as the Tenant Council's guidance in helping us to ensure that we're making sure that all our residents participate in this effort. Are there anyone from the Creighton Tenant Council? Well, if not, at this time, I would like to have the community builders introduce themselves. Juan Powell.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. very much look forward with sharing information with everyone on the amount of progress that we've made. I'm Juan Powell, Vice President of Real Estate Development with the Community Builders. The Community Builders, if you're unfamiliar, is a national nonprofit housing developer. We focus primarily on affordable and mixed income communities. We really focus on large scale neighborhood transformation projects such as this. We operate in 30 cities in the US, primarily in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest. And so we've been in Richmond probably for about 8 years now. The first phase of this really addressed the redevelopment of the Armstrong site, which we're in the looking forward to starting the last phase of that, and obviously here to talk about the Creighton redevelopment. I'm also joined by a number of people that also are my colleagues with the Community Builders, and I would certainly like for each of you to introduce yourself. If we could start with Jennifer, please.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Schneider. I'm a senior project manager with the Community Builders and really looking forward to working with the residents and other stakeholders for the new Creighton Court.
Great. Calvette?
Hi, I'm Calvette Clanton, a long life resident of Richmond. Grew up in Churchill, and I'm just so excited about what is to come for the Creighton Court community. I am a resident service coordinator here in Armstrong, and looking forward to working with RRHA and the residents of Creighton Court.
Great. Thank you, Calvette. Is there anyone else, I'm trying to see the boxes here, with the Community Builders that's part of the call this evening? Okay. One of our primary partners in this development is the City of Richmond. They've been a strong partner really since the beginning. Is there anyone with the City of Richmond that's part of the call this evening?
Hello to all, this is James AJ Manor. Thank you for having me and looking forward to working with each of you all, and just let you all know that we're here for you. Thank you.
Great, thanks for joining us, James. Really appreciate that and very much appreciate you introducing yourself. Another one of our key partners is Housing Opportunities Unlimited, also known as HOU. They are just going to be a truly major partner. And Chris, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your organization.
Thank you, Juan. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. My name is Chris Jones. I'm the Vice President of Client Relations for Housing Opportunities Unlimited. HOU is a national relocation consultant, and we've had the pleasure of working with the Community Builders on a multitude of projects over the past few years. And we're very excited to be a part of this process and the revitalization of the Creighton Court neighborhood. I'm truly excited, being a Richmond native myself, to be a part of this transformation. So welcome to you all, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. And looking forward to meeting each and every one of you all.
Great, thanks a lot, Chris. If we could go to the next slide, please. The first item on our agenda is really an update on what's been going on. One of the first items that is involved with a project like this is called the master planning phase. And the master plan really is where you take a community and try to figure out what the vision for that community will be in the future. And so by that, we start to look at how the street grid will lay out, what type of streets, how they're organized, how will the alleys be organized, how will the parking be organized, how will the parks, recreation areas, how those organized, and how will the housing itself be organized. And so in order to do that, it's a very engagement-oriented process. And certainly we had a lot of input from the residents of Creighton via numerous outreach areas or activities. And those activities really involved us just trying to understand what type recreation areas are important, what type parks are important, how should they be oriented, what should the housing look like, what's the scale of the housing, how is that organized. And so we, as the developer and our team, obviously very much in conjunction with RRHA, we really get together and put together a plan. And that plan is the master plan. And so we started in roughly August, September of last year and went through pretty much November, December, working on the master plan. And so we're very fortunate to be in a position where we've created that planning process and think we have a community guideline. It certainly has a lot of flexibility that we think will pave the way for the new Creighton Court. And we're very appreciative of everyone who put forth their time to give us input in how this community should look and how this community should work. The next process for us in this, moving this forward, is what's called the zoning approval. And zoning really allows a community to be developed in accordance with certain guidelines. And so once a master plan is completed, even with the City of Richmond's input, it still also goes to the City of Richmond for approval of that plan. And we work out the details on how the community will function. That process is called the Community Unit Plan, or CUP. And so we've submitted our documents for the zoning approval, working with the City of Richmond Planning Department now to get that approved, and really proud of the progress that we're making toward our zoning approval. The next slide really speaks to schedule. One of the items that comes up in all meetings and forums is, what is the schedule for this project? And certainly projects like this are very complex, a lot of moving parts, but we still, you know, even with that number of variables, we wanted to convey that here is the plan. The first and most immediate item will be a resident assessment. And this will be for what we term phase one. Phase one of the project will be those homes that are currently adjacent to 9 Mile Road. So those homes in that vicinity are what we're calling phase one. And so the existing Creighton Court community has been divided into roughly thirds as we work from 9 Mile Road toward Creighton Road to 29th Street. And so the first phase, residents in that component, we will start with a resident assessment, and that assessment really is going to be something that will take place in the first quarter of this year. And Chris will be able to come back and speak a little bit more about that assessment. The second component of the project that will take place after that is resident relocation. And so residents that are in what we're terming phase one, adjacent to 9 Mile Road, will be relocated. We'll talk about some of the options for that relocation. But in order to move forward with the demolition of this part of Creighton Court, we're going to have go through the relocation process so that residents are no longer living in that area. Our plan is to start demolition in the fall of this year. So fall of 2021 is when we plan to demolish the first phase of the existing Creighton Court. Also, starting early next year is what we term the infrastructure phase. The infrastructure for a project like this is really a lot of what you see. This new community will have new streets, new alleys, new parks, new street lighting, new traffic signage, new utilities for stormwater management. And so all of that work has to start before we're physically able to start building buildings. And so in the beginning of 2022 is when we will start on our infrastructure. Also planned later in the year in 2022 is the actual construction of new housing units. And so the first component of new housing on the Creighton Court site will begin roughly around the mid part of 2022. And that phase will take a little over a year to complete. And so by later in the year 2023, we anticipate having completed the first component of housing so that residents will be able to move into these new homes. And so just to kind of recap, first quarter of this year, HOU will start with the assessment of the residents in phase one. Again, phase one are those homes that are adjacent to 9 Mile Road. Spring, summer of this year, we will relocate residents that are part of that area. Again, there will be several options for residents to choose from, and that's what HOU will orchestrate on those housing options. Fall of this year, we will start our demolition activity for phase one. Our infrastructure will begin in 2022. Also in 2022, we will start with construction of the new housing. That housing will take a little over a year to complete. And by 2023, we will have residents moving into new homes on the site of Creighton Court. If we could go to the next slide. For those that are able to see the slides, and I know that a number of people are also on the phone, but the first phase of the new redeveloped Creighton Court is going to take place along 9 Mile Road also. And it will contain roughly 68 new homes. Those homes will be very similar to the homes that are part of Armstrong today. They will be approximately the same size, the same height, similar layouts. And so that for anyone who wants a vision of what the first component of housing of the Creighton Court redevelopment, it's very much like the housing that currently exists in the Armstrong community adjacent. And at this time, as I've mentioned before, RRHA and TCB, we've partnered with Housing Opportunities Unlimited. And so I would like to turn it back over to Chris, if possible, to speak about their process and what's forthcoming.
Yes, thanks, Juan. So as I see the chat starting to get very active with questions around, mostly centered around relocation, and rightfully so, because of the extent of the work being done at Creighton Court, it is going to be required for tenants to relocate for an amount of time while that work is being done. And so as Juan mentioned earlier, as a tenant at Creighton Court, you have a couple of options when it actually comes to relocation. The primary reason why HOU will conduct these resident assessment surveys is to figure out your individual needs and preferences as a household. And so we know, generally speaking, relocation is imminent, but we know that every individual household has a different situation. And so our one-on-one assessments will identify your preferences and the accommodations that we would like to try to make for you as a household when we meet with you all, hopefully within the coming weeks. So you'll receive some correspondence about when the HOU team will be on site. And so HOU along with RHA will be setting up those individual assessments at the convenience of your time and location within the coming weeks to gather that information. We know that this potentially can be an overwhelming process in terms of preparing for relocation, moving, packing, and everything that is encompassed with relocation. But HOU is here primarily to make sure that this process is as stressless as possible. And so our team members will dedicate all of our time to make sure that we are accommodating all of your needs to the best of our ability, and that we are walking through this process hand in hand with you all from start to finish. So we know that there are numerous questions about individual households and your individual situation. And if you could just allow us and give us the time to speak with you all on an individual basis about your options, we look forward to doing so. And so I know that there are questions about where are we moving, when are we moving? There are several options that we're looking at for tenants. And it really depends on ultimately what you would like to do. If you would like to stay and continue to be a resident at Creighton Court, there are options to pursue the avenue. If you would like to possibly pursue off-site housing at a different location, we can also talk about those options too, using tenant protection vouchers, which we're looking at acquiring as this process proceeds. So, my team will be in contact. I will have my contact information and we'll share that with Angela so that she can put that on all of the social media sites and the RHA website. So if you all have any questions in the interim, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll give you my my personal line and my email address so that you all can contact me. Again, being a native of Richmond, Virginia, and seeing the development and what TCB has done in the past, I'm very excited for you all and looking forward to assisting you all in this process.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris. So this is our last slide before we begin to take questions. Ongoing communication. We want to make sure that you all are informed about what is taking place every step of the way. We want to continue to give you updates. And so we've developed several platforms in order to make sure that we do just that. So there's going to be a quarterly newsletter that's actually going to follow this community meeting. It is going to be distributed in several ways. We're going to be posting it on a dedicated website for Creighton relocation. We're going to be distributing it by hand. It will be available also at the property management office. We will email it out. However you would like to receive this newsletter, we will make sure that we get it to you. Also, we are going to continue having quarterly community meetings as we are doing right now, and we will, to the extent possible, have as many options for those meetings. So the in-person option, as we're doing now, by phone as well as virtually. As I indicated, there is a website that is being developed primarily that is focused on the Creighton redevelopment. So there'll be a whole website that you can go to and find out any information about what is going on with this critical project. We also have a telephone information line, and you can call the number. It is 804-780-4343. It is an information line only. You will not be able to leave a message, but you will be able to call and get updates verbally about what's taking place with this project. There's also an email address that has been developed. The email address is creightonredevelopment@gmail.com. And that's Creighton Redevelopment, all one word, spelled out at gmail.com. And if you email that address with your questions, with your concerns, you will get a response within 48 business hours. And so those are just some of the ways that we are, that we're going to be communicating with you all. As always, RRHA will be posting things on our social media sites as well, letting you know about upcoming meetings and other things that relate to this project. So you will be informed. We will make sure that we're communicating with you. So with that, I don't think there's anything else. We're going to go ahead and start taking some questions. As I indicated, we're going to start with questions from the chat. And then from there, we're going to move on to some questions that may be asked at the in-person locations. But let's see, so. All righty, our first question, it says, when you start to relocate people on 9 Mile Road of phase 1, where is it that they will be relocated to? And is it permanent? And is it in Creighton Court to the vacated apartments they have now on Creighton and 29th Street? So we got 3 questions in that chat. So let's start with the first one. When you start to relocate people on 9 Mile Road of phase 1, where is it that they will be relocated to? Who wants to take that?
And maybe, can you go back to the previous slide with the options, if you don't mind, Angela?
That one here?
Yes.
Okay.
And so maybe I'll start, and certainly others can weigh in. But what we've tried to do is delineate several relocation options for the current residents. And one is a tenant protection voucher, which gives flexibility to the resident to get housing elsewhere, wherever there's acceptance of that voucher. There's also off-site project-based vouchers as another option. And then there's the option of staying in Creighton Court, which would involve a temporary move to either phase 2 or phase 3 while we're in the process of building out Creighton Court itself. And that would involve a project-based voucher that allows the resident to move into Creighton Court. And so that, and again, someone else could expound upon that if I've been inadequate, but this slide, hopefully tries to delineate some of the options that would be available to the resident.
Absolutely, Juan. I think you generally, hit the nail right on the head. And our resident assessment surveys will actually determine, the route that we take in relocating you as a household and you as a resident. And so when we sit down and we talk about your preferred options and talk about what you envision your future like at Creighton and the like, we will discuss some of these options in detail to see what's feasible. And then we will also want to talk about timeline. As we stated earlier, we're looking to start some of this activity in spring, summer of this year. So all of those questions will be answered in great detail. Honestly, there's no general answer for that would take care of all of the affected residents. Everyone has a choice and some options here. So we'll dig into that deeper during those one-on-one assessments. But as you can see, or you've listened to, we have a couple that you are able to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't say anything else, Juan or Chris. You're absolutely right. I mean, the one-on-one assessment is what's really needed. This is individual circumstances for each family and the choices that they would have to make based on the housing options that are presented to them. So that's in essence what's going to happen throughout this whole process. Key to starting all of this, as you clearly stated, Chris, is the one-on-one assessment that's needed.
All right, thank you, Juan and Chris and Desi. So we do understand that everyone's situation is different, and which is why the one-on-one assessments are critical. And as they go through those assessments, they'll be able to respond, more specifically to each family's specific circumstance. Another question from the chat: are there any services available for elderly and people with disabilities to help them with the process of filling out paperwork as well as online registration? I think someone at RRHA maybe be able to answer that.
This is Stacy Faison. Yes, there will be services available for the elderly and people with disabilities. And maybe perhaps Wanda or Ralph could expand upon that.
Stacy, this is Wanda.
Yes.
So yes, Sharon, the relocation specialist, and myself, HOU, we will all be able to assist.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just need to, once we meet, we start that one-on-one assessment, we can evaluate at that point and determine what the residents' needs are, and we will work forward from there.
Okay, thank you, Wanda. Will families be able to, and this may be another one-on-one assessment question, but will families be able to relocate to their same size unit?
Sure, I'll go ahead. Angela, thank you for that. One of the things that we're required to do under the relocation is when families relocate is, again, assessing their individual circumstances and in accordance with public housing. And I'll defer to my colleague, Charles, our public housing manager, in terms of right-sizing families once they relocate under the HUD guidelines. So again, it's a one-on-one situation. We will sit down with you, look at your situation and see what's required for your family size and circumstances, and then relocate accordingly based on the regulations that we have.
Okay, thank you, Desi. Another question, once the new homes are built, I guess they're talking about the homes in Armstrong, is it guaranteed that we will be able to live back in the new Creighton, or is it going to be like Kings Ridge and Alexander 1090 and Glen Ridge, where it's only a handful they accept who live in Creighton Court now?
Well, I can certainly start on that as well. When we were in the master planning phase, we also did a initial assessment that was incredibly well, strong level of participation of Creighton Court residents. And what we really wanted to know from that information, and this was conducted by RHA, but kind of fed into the development team, is just what are the preferences of the current residents? How many would like to stay at Creighton? How many would like to move to another community with a project-based voucher? How many would like to move into different housing with a tenant protection voucher? How many would like to move into another public housing community? And what we did was we took that information, and again, just with a great deal of flexibility, it's certainly not carved into stone, but based upon the number of residents that said, yes, we would like to move into the new Creighton, we have planned this community to accommodate that number of residents that said, we want to come back. And again, it was not written in stone. There's flexibility in our plan that it was, based on some percentages, but that was our intent so that we could have enough flexibility in our new plan to accommodate the residents, at least from that initial assessment that said they want to stay there. Now, part two will be a more in-depth one-on-one assessment, which Chris and his team will really undertake. And that's really the bottom line type, because then we will know exactly the number of current residents and their housing choices. And so we have planned based on our preliminary information, again, with flexibility, but then we will be able to drill down further based on this second round of additional information.
Thank you, Juan. Okay, I'm looking at some of the questions that are related. I mean, they will be responded to or answered, once the individual assessments takes place. There is a question, what does the resident assessment consist of?
Another great question. So we would like to sit down with all of the affected households and just grab some general information on bedroom housing composition. So we want to make sure that we're accounting for all individuals living in the household, schooling, jobs, whether or not you're working. Do you take public transportation to work? Where your job is located? Do you work first shift, second shift, third shift? any type of reasonable accommodations that may be pending or maybe in the near future. All of those type things that will help us help you in terms of making a decision of where to relocate when the time comes to relocate from phase one. So, all of that information, and along with the very general information in terms of updated contact information so we can get in contact with you, updating emergency contacts, all of those things we want to make sure that we have the most updated information on so that we can have all the information we need to relocate you. And then we'll get in deeper into your relocation preferences. If there's a specific area of town that you would look into moving, or if you want to stay at Creighton, and what that process looks like, because they are very different. And so, of course, along with relocating, we talk about moving and packing, and you will be provided all of those resources at no additional cost to you. And you have options about whether or not you want to move yourself or arrange it yourself, or have the agency, TCB and RHA, arrange that move situation for you when that time comes. So all of those questions will be answered, and understanding that, that's a very important part to the process. We're looking to get those resident assessments started, as I said earlier, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll keep you all updated on our starting of that process.
Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, so many of the questions that have been asked in the chat are, will be answered as has been indicated through the one-on-one assessment about will I receive a voucher, where will you be relocated to, things of that nature. Here's another question. What is the difference between a tenant protection voucher and a project-based voucher? I know that we have Ms. Kenyatta Green on the line. She from RRHA. She may be able to respond to that.
Absolutely, I can provide some information for that question. With a project-based voucher, is attached rental assistance to a specific unit within a development. It's not transferable. It's not where you can take that subsidy and move wherever you want to. It's for that specific unit. For example, units within Kingsridge, there's a certain number of units within our contract in Kingsridge that are within a project-based contract that we have with them. A tenant protection voucher works like a tenant-based voucher, where you can take that subsidy and you can locate housing of your choice. And it's pretty much called a tenant protection voucher because it's provided due to a HUD assisted, some type of project resulting in, I don't know the wording, and I know Desi will help me, but it's resulting in some type of project within a development, but it gives the family options to select their housing and go wherever they choose to reside and utilize their voucher. Please, Desi, Juan, I see you smiling.
You got it. You got it. Kenyatta, you hit it out the park. You absolutely. No need for me to step in. Absolutely, it's activities because of what we're doing to create court that the tenant protection vouchers are awarded to the housing authority.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenyatta and Desi. There's a question, what if you are on a waiting list already for a different development? I guess how would that affect that person?
Well, it actually would not necessarily, because what happens is no matter where you are and what happens with this particular project, it does not affect your placement on any of the other wait lists that you are on. So as long as you still maintain interest in that particular wait list, you will remain there until you are selected from that particular wait list. So this project does not affect any wait list that you're currently on at all.
Okay, thank you, Kenyatta. Let's see. I think that we've exhausted for right now the questions that are in the chat. Ms. Daniel or Calvette, who are in our in-person locations, are there any questions that the folks there have?
No questions here at Armstrong.
Okay. think I see Wanda walking around. Is she gathering questions or?
There are no questions. Thank you very much.
There are no questions. Okay. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, what we'll do now, if you are on the phone and were unable for some reason to put your question in the chat, if you're on the phone line and you want to ask a question, you can do so. Okay, wow, that is wonderful. That means we just did a great job. You guys did a great job in explaining everything. Well, again, I really appreciate all of you that have joined the call. Hopefully you got some great information. Again, look for upcoming information about upcoming meetings. The newsletter will be coming to you. Call the information line if you want an update about what's going on. Email creightonredevelopment@gmail.com, all of those things. And we look forward to moving forward with this great project. Thank you guys. Y'all have
Thanks
a
a
great
lot.
night.
Thanks. Have a good evening, everyone.
Sure, thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Good night, all.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Um,